Hello, I am Dan Stapleton.
And I'm Brandon Tyrell.
And Brandon, you are reviewing, this is Raven's Cry.
Raven's Cry, yes.
So named because it makes you cry when you play it.
This is what it sounds like when ravens cry.
It is a pirate action game from Topware.
From Topware, yeah. So it's a pirate action adventure with, I guess you could call them RPG-like elements, in that there's a skill tree, there's a progression system for your ships that you can eventually purchase and upgrade and captain around the Caribbean.
But
on paper, it all sounds great.
Well, it sounds like what Assassin's Creed Black Flag
it
ended up being.
It does sound like Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and it plays like a poor man's version of Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Right. So you do get a ship, though.
So yeah. So right now we're starting off. This is the very beginning of the game.
And you're about 10 hours in yourself. But
overall, yeah, I'm about 10 hours in. I have not finished the game yet, but we wanted to sit down and run this through so we can let people know what to expect. So this is the very beginning of the game. You start out with your ship and your crew, and you're just pirating it up.
But you actually liked the naval combat.
I did, yeah. So for me, one of the strongest aspects of Raven's Cry is the fact that the naval battles can be rewarding and engaging. There's not a whole lot of strategy to them, but there is some strategy in that, if you switch over to the side. Since this is the tutorial, we can't actually see any of the targeting indicators or anything, but there are different munition types that you can see down here at the bottom. Can't switch between them yet. And then there's a targeting indicator, very, very similar to Black Flag, and where you angle the shots up and down. And then what I like with Raven's Cry as well is you actually have to aim the elevation of those shots with the sort of bows and the crests of the waves. Because if you fire,
your shots can go long or come short.
Sure, yeah. Because if you fire and hit a sail, you damage the sail,
right?
Regardless of what kind of ammunition you're using. So there really is sort of a dynamic, strategy light element to it.
Now, we should notice that. Oh, incoming. We should notice that, or I should say that I started playing this the other day, and as soon as I finished this battle, it crashed. So
yeah. So
I'm interested to see if that will repeat itself.
Well, so the first time I played this battle, it didn't crash. But the first time I loaded up Raven's Cry, it crashed on the splash screen.
Right, and it crashed. Like, it didn't crash, but it wouldn't let me use it because the menu didn't work.
Right.
I had to alt F4 and quit out. But you're getting beat up pretty bad. Did you just lose? Did you lose the tutorial battle?
Oh, no, I sunk it. Okay. I sunk it. But, okay. I wouldn't be surprised because Raven's Legacy is incredibly difficult to maneuver throughout.
Is the Legacy the ship?
It will be.
Oh.
It's sluggish. It's unreliable. The inputs are really clumsy. Really every system in the game, aside from the naval combat that we were discussing, is just really tough to get around and tough to deal with, and
that's when it's not crashing.
And that's when it's not crashing, but it kills the experience, sure. So outside of the really rough controls, which hopefully we'll be able to see in a minute, are the technical issues, which are numerous. Basically, every facet of Raven's Cry is plagued by technical issues in its own little environment. So visually, it can look good. But that's when the frame rate isn't dropping, textures aren't popping in and out, environments, characters aren't popping in and out, there's some screen tears here and there. Literally everything in this game clips into each other.
And right now we're playing on a GTX 780 and a Core i5
right.
processor. You were playing on a GTX 660, right?
No, I was playing on 760.
760.
So I was playing on a i5 3.4 processor with an Intel... or not Intel, NVIDIA 760.
But this right here is about as pretty as this game's going to get.
Sure, yeah. I will say one good thing about Raven's Cry that I enjoyed is the lighting really helps in situations, especially when you're on the open sea, the sun is setting, there's really kind of that golden sort of glare on the horizon. But largely this game this is about as good as it's going to get.
And right now, I notice they are successfully getting a scene of dialogue out. They
Sure.
are. It was fully voiced.
So
but you were saying that later on, that's not always the case.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of those many technical issues I was referencing before, visually, we covered those, but audio is really Raven's Legacy's weakest point.
Raven's Cry.
Raven's Cry, yes. It is a legacy now. So yeah, audio is really Raven's Cry's weakest point in that, the soundtrack isn't bad. It's good, actually, for what it is, but conversations, voiceovers, conversations particularly are just awful. I mean, two characters are speaking with both of them being fully voiced, and then just spontaneously one of them will switch to subtitles with no audio anymore. Other times, two characters will just continue to speak with no audio period and no subtitles. Sometimes it'll just cut in and out for no reason. And then the facial animations almost never match the what they're actually saying, which, I don't really expect it to, knowing the severity of the other issues in the game.
It has set the bar pretty low. Huh?
Yeah. You really can't ask for much. Let's...
Yeah, is this an unskippable cutscene?
This
is it?
This is a skippable.
Oh, okay, good. Phew.
So this brings us to the real problem with Raven's Legacy is the combat.
Cry. Can't
Raven's
remember
Cry.
the name of this game. It's so forgettable.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Combat in Raven's Cry is tough because things are very. See, like right now, I can't. There we go. So I have my targeting on. So there is a targeter, which you use. You can see I'm targeting back and forth with him. But combat itself just breaks down into slow attacks and fast attacks. And then you have secondary items like your pistol. You have some fancier stuff that you can unlock later on in the skill. Oh, those cutscenes, man. That audio dialogue is just.
But you were saying you couldn't ever find anything that works better than just spamming the light attack?
Correct. Yeah. So there are some fancier stuff you can unlock through the skill tree, but really this is what Raven's Cry boils down to.
One of my favorite things is the position these guys fall down into when they die.
Well, see, something terrible happened to him.
But they're all like, they look like they lost a limbo contest.
Yeah, and the punishment was this.
They just break in half.
A flurry of
that guy actually fell full. But this guy, and like we've seen 3 guys do this.
Yeah.
Where they're just like their legs are like crumpled up under them. It looks ridiculous.
Yeah, so you think there's like some sort of ragdoll physics at work here, but really they all fall in the same sort of contorted pattern. Skip past all of this. Okay, so now I just leveled up, so we can show you what the skill tree looks like. So Raven's Cry skill tree is separated into a naval column, a combat column, and as well as you've got the Raven, the titular Raven of the game, which follows Captain Christopher Raven around, and he does things like spot enemies, steal from people, distract them during combat. And so really this is all there is to it. So you can go through the combat tree and unlock some of the fancier moves, but it doesn't really add anything. The major point of this skill tree, in my opinion, what I found worked the best for me, is to level up this naval column here, because it adds things to your reputation, what cargo you can hold, how strong your ship is, things like that.
So the trade stuff and the naval stuff is actually fairly decent. So if they had just cut out all of this awful pirate
if they had not tried to make this Assassin's Creed, which is kind of what it is. It's Assassin's Creed without the mobility or really the polish. If they had really just focused on the the open sea stuff, and really fleshing that out as its own standalone thing, I could really see this. The potential for a good pirate game is here.
Are you trying to pull these guys down? Oh, you're trying to get
no,
through
I'm
that.
trying to get out. You can't actually interact with things when your weapon is drawn, so you've got to put it away. And then sometimes,
so it seems like we should just be playing Sid Meier's Pirates instead.
Yeah, I guess, but this is a new game.
Yeah. So. Though, stuff like this, like next time somebody tells me they think Assassin's Creed is a bad game, I'm just going to tell them to play this.
Well, that'll
remind them what a bad game really is.
Yeah, you really have to provide context, sure. Okay, so there is also I think I just screwed it up. He heard me coming. So there's also a stealth element to Raven's Cry, which which is always fun. Let's see if he sees me. Yep, he still sees me. I'm just going to have to kill him.
Stabby, stabby.
And there you go. That's pretty much 90% of your engagements.
And after 10 hours, it doesn't get any more interesting than that.
Oh man, no, it really doesn't. Like, I've tried to mix it up. You know, you can throw in a pistol in there. You get throwing knives later on. You even get a rock to chuck because you know. But it never boils down to just getting more powerful swords and then just hacking them to death with light attacks.
That one time you stabbed a ghost.
I did stab a ghost. So, Raven's Cry also has a sort of Max Payne-esque element to it, where you know you get hit by a hallucinogenic dart, and then you start going through the sins of your past and confronting the ghosts and all of that stuff. You literally follow a trail of blood, just like in Max Payne 2. So yeah, enemies do come in, I guess, different shapes and sizes, but they're always just people holding swords or clubs. There's really no variety. Sometimes they'll pull out guns. I think I'll be able to show off the stealth mechanic here. So you can sprint while you're in stealth. There you go.
The classic sneak up behind guys and kill them.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, like 3 inches away from another guy who really should have heard that scream.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've done this to guys who were in like a 45-degree peripheral vision of each other and nothing. And the worst part is when you're sneaking, the already cumbersome movement is actually worsened. Going upstairs is a pain. It's a pain when you're not sneaking, but it's a much bigger pain when you're in this sort of crouch position.
To be fair, like, you know, most games do that kind of crap.
Sure,
but,
yeah. But the problem with Raven's Cry is that everything is just so cumbersome and sluggish that it should be the exception, but it's the rule. And see, here's another issue that we have right now. There are guys behind that barricade, and I have to run because I'm going to die. There are guys behind that barricade, but I don't have any way to reach them. So,
because you can't even go over waist-high obstacles, right?
Right, yeah. Like hurtling, stuff like that. Invisible walls are definitely a big part of Raven's Cry. You can loot. There's a loot system, but you can't actually loot ammunition for your pistol, which is something I found really infuriating because A, it's expensive, and B, that means you have to go back to port. And that was really my biggest issue. Well, not my biggest. It was one of them. Was that, merchants, your shipwright who... he'll kill me too. Shipwright who repairs your ships and stuff like that. It's all spread out across these port towns, and because everything is so sluggish and cumbersome, you have to dock your ship and then run for 3 to 5 minutes to hit all these different merchants that you need, and then run back to the dock and get on your ship. And it might not sound like a terrible issue, but it's really noticeable when you just have to stop and like grab more cannonballs or pick up rations.
And when you have to do that multiple times, that adds up.
Yeah, exactly. And there are some quest givers that are like a half-mile inland, and you really just have to trek like through the jungle to get to them.
I'm impressed that it hasn't crashed on us in this time, because it crashed on me. But I guess there was a driver update that may have fixed some of it.
Yeah, so there was an update this morning. It might have addressed some stability stuff. So I think, you know, in the review we'll probably mention that I found the most effective way to navigate combat in Raven's Cry is actually just to run away.
Oh god, it's one of those games where you can just run right through everything?
Oh yeah. You can beat this entire section without swinging your sword once.
Okay. All right. Well, suffice it to say, you probably shouldn't buy this game. So our full review will be along shortly, but in the meantime, yeah, probably based on what you've seen here. Well, if you like what you saw here, then by all means, just go nuts. But
sure,
if somebody were to come up to you and ask you, should they buy Raven's Cry, what would you tell them? Brandon?
I would tell them absolutely not, unless you're one of those people that really just has to play every single pirate game out there. There is nothing outside of really the naval combat that spoke to me personally, and though this small, and this is a very small chunk of the opening, it might seem stable and good. Really, things just get worse as you keep going in. So, recommend it. I just can't.
Yeah, that's always unfortunate, but Has to be done.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for showing it off. And,
Thank you.
For more on Raven's Cry, we'll have our full review very shortly, as soon as you suffer through the rest of it.
Yeah.
But stay on IGN.